Hello and welcome to this special live video called Brahmastra. Brahmastra is a column my colleague, our defense editor Snehesh Alex Philip writes for us every week. And today we are doing a live discussion under Brahmastra because there has been a major development today regarding the Agnipath scheme that the government announced only 2 days back. 2 days ago, this was hailed as a major military reform because the government announced that it would start recruiting young people into the army and the air force and the navy for a duration of 4 years. This would help fill up a shortage in the forces, create jobs, make the military younger, agile, reduce the pension bill, which is a huge financial burden on the forces, and also allow the forces to push or divert funds towards modernization, capital expenditure, buying new equipment, and all of that. But today, you would have, if any of you have tracked any television news since the morning, protests have broken out in Bihar, in UP, in Rajasthan, parts of Haryana, where young men are rioting against this plan. They have serious questions and objections to this. So I will get Snehesh to take over and tell us, Snehesh, what are these young people protesting against? Or do you think you want to talk about what Agnipath is all about a little bit before that?
Well, what Agnipath is all about is it's a new recruitment scheme that the government has brought in for the military. Now, what this essentially does is it changes the entire system upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So till now, what used to happen was that they used to be recruited in rallies that used to be held, and people used to be recruited. What I'm saying is PBR, below the officer's rank or other ranks, as they say. They used to be recruited, then they used to undergo, depending on the vacancies that are there, depending on whatever they used to go to get deployed with various regiments, then they go for the training. This training usually lasts 9 to 11 months, and then you get deployed to your units. Then again, there is further training, things like that, which keeps happening. So you're recruited at the sepoy rank. Now, what this scheme envisages is that they will now recruit all future recruitments. So there is no regular recruitment that is going to take place. All future recruitments from now onwards will be through the Agnipath scheme. Now, what this scheme is that they will recruit from the lower rank, that is the sepoy rank, for 4 years. After 4 years, for example, in the next 9 months is when the first recruitment rally would be held. They would be recruiting 46,000 people. So 46,000 people would be recruited next year. So which means that technically they come into the army only in 2023. And they would be recruited only for 4 years.
Okay.
That means they will have a service till 2027. Now, what happens in 2027? In 2027, all of them would be given an option whether they want to continue with the army on a permanent basis. Naturally, I believe that in this day and age where there are no jobs, people are looking forward to the military, most of them will want to continue. So yes, but the forces will take only 25% of those 46,000. So which means that 75% would be let go. Now, interesting is that while they would continue to serve in the army or in the three services, the minimum criteria to get a pension is 15 years. So technically, one would assume that, at least for the 25% who managed to get in, they've already served 4 years, so they will have to serve another 11 years. In case if they don't get promotion, they stay at sepoy level and things like that. However, that 15 years, that thing would start fresh from 2027. So your 4 years in Agnipath, even though you make it to the next round, you will still have to serve for another 15 years for you to be eligible for pensions. Now, what happens to the rest 75 who've been let go? Now, the government says that the rest 75 will, first of all, after the 4 years, they'll get about 11.7 lakh as Seva Nidhi package. So 11.71 lakh tax-free with interest. So,
but that also includes 30% that would have been contributed by them while they were serving.
So the minimum salary would be about 30,000 rupees. By the time that you have completed 4 years, the salary will be 40,000 rupees.
Minus 30%.
So 30,000 ka minus 30% is a contribution that you put in. The government also matches that contribution.
It's like a PF which happens to all of us.
PF which happens to all of us. But here in this case, a 17.5-year-old youth who joins the army After 21 years, after when he attains the 21 years, 21 and a half, he will get 11 lakh 70,000.
12 lakhs roughly.
12 lakhs roughly. I bought a EcoSport car which was 12.4 lakhs. When I go to the villages, we had Jyoti who traveled extensively, others who traveled extensively, and they say that everybody is buying SUVs. The first purchase that everybody would do is SUVs. So 11.7 lakhs might look great on paper, but in all practicality, it is nothing. So the next is they will of course be extended a loan as part of this thing for 18 lakhs for a period of 3 years, in case they want to set up a business, they want to do anything. But the big question is, besides that, what? So where will these youth go? So of course the government says that they are in talks with the private sector for them to find jobs and things like that. But I'm not really sure how much would the private sector be able to take.
Also, I think the MHA, that's the Home Ministry, a lot of state governments have said that they will give priority to these Agniveers when they recruit
so that's
people
a very
to the police forces.
that's a very interesting statement. And the key word here is priority. They will prioritize Agniveers. So, strangely, while the MHA talks about prioritizing Agniveers, there's a long pending scheme, an offer that is there, which has been under discussion, is a lateral entry of armed forces personnel to the CAPFs, which has been objected to by the CAPFs. Of course, they have their own valid reasons for objecting, because at the end of the day, it will lead to a stagnation in the CAPF as far as, the promotions and things are concerned. But here again, they have used will prioritize. They have not said we will.
Compulsory. It won't
it's
be
not compulsory. It's not saying that 20% of the recruits will be through Agniveer or 30% or whatever numbers that they fix. So it's again prioritized. So one will really have to wait and see, because this churn of people who are going to come in and exit is going to be huge in the coming years. So one will really have to wait and see whether that kind of job is really available for them.
So, there have been questions raised, and some senior veterans have, everybody analyzes these things. Everything is not black and white. I'm sure there will be refinement to these programs and plans, and it's not like you announce something and that's how it stays. I'm sure the government also knows that once they need to make some changes eventually as it is launched, they will do that. So we will not take those points right away, but these protests that have started today, saw trains being burnt in some parts of Bihar, roads blocked, and all of those things in UP, Haryana, Rajasthan. So what are these young people saying? They're saying that our preparation to get into the forces for so many years, a lot of them now will be ineligible because of this 17.5 to 21.
Well, in the last 2 years, recruitment has not happened. Most of them who were preparing would have been preparing at the age of 17 and a half. So even that's the recruitment age even now. So 2 years would be, which means that they would be 19, 20. So they're still eligible to be part of the recruitment scheme. I think most of them are against the fact. I think, again, I always say this, and is that the fact is that armed forces is not an employment generation bureau.
But Snehesh, I want to tell you that, whether it's the armed forces or these police rallies we see in different states where thousands of young people gather, that is because there are no other employment opportunities in India. Because a while ago there was a statistic that was thrown around many years back that India needs to create 1 million jobs every month. Yeah. And it is not able to, especially in this situation where we have a slowdown even before the pandemic, then the pandemic, and then we've had this huge economic crisis due to the war. The economy is not able to create the number of jobs India needs. So that is one of the reasons these young men are going.
Absolutely, and this is the exact reason why I'm saying even after 4 years when they leave, where are the jobs available? So that is one big thing that these youngsters have. Till now, we were recruited permanently into the armed forces, which means that you used to come in at whatever age, 18, 19, 20, whatever that they come in. Then they serve the army for 15 years, 18 years, 20 years, depending on the ranks. And when they get out from the army, they have a pension to fall back on. They also get the ex-serviceman status. So these protests are mainly because
a lot of those benefits are not there.
None of these benefits are there. They would be serving for 4 years. If they are really that good, and only 1 out of every 4 will make it to the permanent commission. So, in rural India, in these places where they join the armed forces for jobs, they are looking at a stability factor as far as life is concerned, as far as job is concerned. Yes, the military life is grueling, it is tough, but at the end of the day, it also provides you a safety net. Once you're in the army, your medical, everything is taken care of, your ration is taken care of, you get all kinds of facilities, you get housing, which is there. You're able to take care of your family, which would not be the case once this Agnipath scheme really rolls out.
See, there is also a short service commission so far. How is this very different from SSC?
The short service commission is absolutely different because short service is for officers. This is for ORs, other ranks,
Soldiers.
which is below the officers. So the short service also, for example, when Serious General Bipin Rawat was alive, and even when he was the army chief, he wanted to actually go ahead and change the short service system to make it more lucrative. So there were multiple things that they were looking at. Even when this Agnipath scheme came out in 2020, I think even though this was a scheme that was originally mooted by the CDS, and then of course the Army Chief General Naravne spoke about it. It was known as a tour of duty then. General Rawat at that time also insisted that first priority should be the short service commission, and then you should look at other aspects of it. So even when the scheme first came in, the scheme was actually meant for officers, and then it got tweaked, it went multiple changes, and then it became for the other ranks. So the other thing, and plus there's a lot of criticism as far as, there are people who are saying that armed forces is not tourism. You can't come in as a tourist and get used to it and leave. I think those people need to understand that, when the tour of duty first came in, and, it was General Naravne who mentioned that, and he gave a very public, it was on record when he said that, this tour of duty at that time was envisaged as a period where people who want to experience the armed forces but don't want a career out of it, they can come in for 2 to 3 years, serve in the army, and then go back, to doing whatever that they wanted. And at that time, again, it was considered for officers, not for, other ranks. So, yes, that would have been a tourism kind of a thing, where I come in for, I'm 21, 20, finish my college, come in for 2 years to see, how the army operates. I do it for 2 years and go back. So that criticism was very valid. However, the Agnipath scheme is totally different. It is absolutely diametrically opposite to the tour of duty that was been envisaged. This is a proper recruitment model that the government is focusing on. And one of the big, of course, there are multiple cons to it. We can discuss the cons and all. But the fact is that the beneficial aspect of this is the fact that your pension bill reduces. No matter what people would say, the pension bill is just huge. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, the pension bill this year is about 1.2 lakh crores, which is this time actually it is less than the capital. Last year it was higher than the capital budget, capex, which means that, so with this scheme in the longer run, it is the pension bill would decrease. So that is something which is really the government is focused on. There are multiple good aspects to it. I think we'll talk about it as the thing way goes. But yes, I understand that there is a genuine concern that the scheme which has been pushed in at a time when India is involved in a standoff with China. You have tensions with Pakistan. While yes, of course, LC is quiet, but you still have tensions with China. And you've brought in the scheme suddenly, without having it, without going through a test bed or doing it for a particular period to see how it affects the army, the structure, the morale, things like that. So just swooped in and made these changes. Of course, I did speak to, as you rightly mentioned, this policy will go through tweaks as and when things stabilize and they see the falls or the good and the bad of it. Things will stabilize, but then ideally, you should check your parachute once before jumping off the plane.
Well, Snehesh, yes, but every scheme, like you said, comes with pros and cons, and there is no scheme that is so perfect that you can launch it without any glitches. So let's give the government the benefit of the doubt on that one. So let's take some questions, Snehesh. We have a lot of viewers sending us questions, and the first one is from someone who calls himself or herself on site.
Okay.
I qualified for the physical and medical exam and only my written was left. They lied to us for 1.5 years and now most of my friends and I myself have become overage. We have no future ahead. It's a statement.
Well, it's a statement. It's not a question. As I said, there has been no recruitment that was happening for the last 2 years. The first year was basically because of COVID that you just couldn't do anything. Multiple all offices were shut. The army actually went into a lockdown. There were numerous cases. The second year mostly was because they were coming out with this policy, so they were working on this. The fact of the matter is that Prime Minister Modi, when he first came in 2014, he spoke about a smaller and agile army. I think that is a need of the hour. We are very human men in manpower intensive. As far as armed forces are concerned,
Or human power, manpower, human resource power,
man and women, so human resource power. I think that needs to be changed. The government has been talking about it since 2014. From the first time that he addressed the Combined Commanders Conference, he's been talking about it. So this was something that was written on the wall. So yes, the need of the hour is to have a smaller and a more agile army, which is focused. Of course, you need the manpower, you need boots on the ground. But do we need so many boots?
Exactly.
There needs to be a rationalization as far as manpower or human power is concerned. Now, other thing is that, which was very surprising. For example, I cover the armed forces and I was myself not aware of this fact, is that the average age in the army, the soldier, is 32. So it came as a shock to me. In my mind, the average age, I was assuming it to be about 26, 27. But through this scheme, I realized that the average age is 32. So this scheme, they plan to bring down the age down to 26, which is an ideal number.
The other point I think you should also explain to our viewers, which is something we have made and even Shekhar has made in many of his Cut the Clutters. And we have a live demonstration in front of us in Ukraine that wars are not fought just by humans. In fact, you don't need so many people. You don't go with guns like you see in the movies. Even tanks are becoming obsolete. You don't need those tanks. Things are being done through drones and missiles and fighter jets, where the technology and the equipment is as important, if not more important, than the number of boots on the ground. You want to explain a little bit of why you don't need so many men now and women?
Well, one of the classic cases where many people say that the Russian plan actually went awry was the fact that first it was large number of conscripts. Second, they didn't actually
explain what is a conscript, please.
Is what the Agnipath scheme is, where you are taken in for a limited period of time. You're not a permanent guy, so conscription can work from 1 year to 8 years. For example, in China's case, it goes up till 8 years. The Americans, if I'm not mistaken, have it for 2 years. There are other places which have it for 1 year. So you join the armed forces for 1 year or 2 years or whatever period, and then you go back.
But it's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory.
Israel is compulsory.
Israel is compulsory. Israel, both men and women have to undergo that thing. They have a
3 years, I think.
I think for it's for 3 years for men and 1.5, 22 months or something for women. Now, so Russia, a lot of it, they say that the plan went awry because, of course, they sent in all the armored columns and all. They thought that they can win the war by showing off how big they are. Numbers they are, but they didn't really have boots on the ground to actually move in and sweep the area for the armored columns to move in. But yes, it's a fact that no more wars are going to be fought in the old sense, where trenches to trenches battle has been fought, where you have soldiers with rifles each other. This is now an era of BVR, which is beyond visual range. Be it missiles fired from aircraft, or be it missiles and rockets fired from the surface. This would be an age, but at the same time, boots on the ground are important. But do we, and hence the bigger question is, do we really need so many boots as far as Indian military is concerned, as far as Indian army is concerned? So there are a lot of changes that have been brought in, like farms have been shut, postal services have been shut. There is a need to outsource many of the works. For example, you have a huge logistics which is a team which is involved, the supply team which is involved for a simple thing as fuel. The army, the air forces, but now you'll have to, the air force has just introduced a scheme in which, now instead of stopping at every air force station, used to have their own fuel dump for vehicles, not for the aircraft. So every vehicle used to have to, which is moving from one location to the other, used to take a circuitous route because they can fill their petrol or the diesel only from the Air Force stations. But that was there when, there were no petrol pumps everywhere. Now you go to, top in Ladakh, you will have a petrol pump there. Things are there. For example, another big thing that the armed forces used to do, which was funny, is that when they used to buy vehicles, earlier all the vehicles used to be delivered in Delhi. And from here, then it used to be delivered to, let's say, in Leh, to Srinagar, to Guwahati, things like that. Then the army realized, why are we doing this? Now, they used to do this earlier because there were no dealers in these places, in far-flung areas. Now the dealers, Mahindra to Tata, everybody is there everywhere, Maruti. So now while you order from Delhi, a unit in Kashmir would get the vehicles in Kashmir itself from the dealer. The company deals with the dealer. So there are a lot of rationalization that is happening, and rationalization is needed.
We take a question from Shagun. Good question. Why have we seen maximum protests in Bihar and not in the southern states?
Because I hope the protests don't spread, but there would be. I'm assuming that there would be protests in some more areas where a large number of soldiers come from. Recruits come from. Of course, you're aware of the states which send in a large number of states. Down south, one will really have to see the composition of the armed forces to really understand how many such rallies are held in the south. Remember that even though in the army, in the Air Force and all, you don't have the caste things. In the army, a lot of these regiments are all class and caste based. So recruitment happens accordingly in those specific areas too. And one good thing about this recruitment, the Agnipath scheme, is that this is going to be all India, all class, which means that somebody from you're from Karnataka, I am from Kerala. Somebody from Karnataka or Kerala could actually get recruited and be deployed in Rajputana Rifles. Right now, for a Mallu to be deployed in Rajputana Rifles is nearly impossible. I would not say impossible because I'm not really sure. But eventually over the years, what will happen is that, of course, you will have this, caste-based regiments. But over a period of time, it will get tweaked. It will become an all India, all class kind of a composition, which is necessary. Of course, there are many people who say that what happens to the cohesion that is there, things like that. I think one really needs, if caste is what brings in the army, the soldiers together, then I'm sorry, that needs to change.
That's 18th century.
That's 18th century. You should look at the Air Force and the Navy. They don't have caste. A sailor in a submarine could be, a Jat could be working alongside with a Hindu or a Christian Mallu. So so that caste composition really needs to go.
Yeah. And another important point I want to add, Shagun, is look at job opportunities you mentioned Bihar, UP. So let's look at job opportunities in the Hindi heartland and the young people who want jobs. Where do they go and what are the job opportunities in these states? And look at job opportunities in southern India, any of the southern states which are obviously more developed and there are more job opportunities. So that is also one of the reasons why there are young people who have no other options, who want to get into the police or into the forces, are disappointed. Aditya, who's been a member with us for a month, thank you, Aditya, for taking a membership. Don't you think the diploma certificate that would be provided at the end of 4 years should have some extra points in government exams and interviews?
Well, Aditya, thank you for being a subscriber. Great to have you on board. I completely agree with you. It should be done. I think there would be tweaks that would be done eventually once the scheme really rolls out. There are a number of changes that are already been talked about. The government and the scheme was largely done by the DMA, Department of Military Affairs. It's manned by uniform personnel. So you can't. So this is a proposal that came out from the uniform itself, and it's been implemented by the uniform. Of course, the civilian side, that is a political leadership, gave the go ahead. So I'm sure, this is something that would be there, that would be thought about. Even when the Short Service Commission was first brought in, it was meant for 5 years. Eventually, it became a longer thing. There were tweaks and multiple tweaks that took place. I hope this Agnipath scheme doesn't go too many of tweaks, that it goes back to the earlier system of how it was. But I'm sure there would be changes that would be made. And there's a very valid point.
In fact, as we speak, Aditya, my colleague Kritika Sharma, who covers the Education Ministry, mentioned that the education minister has again tweeted today, specifically focusing on this scheme and what more can be done for them through the education ministry. So the government is also, even within 2 days of announcing Agnipath, they're adding more options to it to make it much more
Stable.
acceptable and stable. Aditya has another question, Sneha. She says, what will be the criteria for retaining the 25%? Will it not lead to favoritism?
Well, that is again another worry that is there, Aditya. You rightly mentioned. What is the criteria? Now, what happens, for example, let's say you get deployed to a unit. The CEO at this time is looking after, he's looking after the entire operational, area of operations as far as his unit is concerned. But then this will also lead to a lot of HR work that he will have to do. So the criteria on how they would be retained is still not known. I think the armed forces will really have to work on it and clarify exactly what it is. But I can tell you for the fact that in the army it cannot be at the whims and fancies of a particular officer. There would be processes that would be laid down. Of course, these processes can always have some kind of drawbacks. There would be some whims and fancies that will come into play, but on a larger scheme of things, I can assure you that the 25% retention will not be based on just the whims and fancies of the commanding officer of a unit.
Hitesh Nautiyal, who's a member for 2 months. Hi, Hitesh. He has 3 questions. Agnipath scheme is an option or is it compulsory? It's an option. It is not compulsory.
Yeah, it is option.
Yeah. What about women's participation in this scheme?
So that is when Lieutenant General Anil Puri mentioned, and the Navy Chief also, Admiral Hari Kumar also mentioned that it would be a scheme that would be open to both men and women. And there were a lot of rejoicing, naturally, and it rightly so. But you'll have to understand that that is as per the needs of the 3 services. So now, right now, the position, the Agnipath scheme is for other ranks. It's for below officers. In below officers, no women sailors are recruited. Whatever women, even when they have been brought into combat now, is for the officer level. As far as the Air Force is concerned, there are no air crew which is women. You now have women fighter pilots. We don't have air crew, other ranks in women. In the army also, while of course you have women officers posted to multiple regiments, there are no women officers posted to the infantry yet because they are in direct combat. But now they have started recruiting women for MP, that is military police. They have a training center in Bangalore. You should go to our YouTube channel. A colleague in Bangalore had done the story, 2 video stories on these women recruits of military police. So the future military police recruitment will also happen through Agnipath. As far as the other ranks are concerned. So that is there. But it doesn't mean that suddenly you will have women sailors, you will have women air crew, you will have women in the infantry units for 4 years. That is not what they say. All future recruitments will happen through Agnipath. Women would be recruited through Agnipath for other ranks as and when the policy for women comes.
Hitesh, I'll take your 3rd question last because we have some other viewers asking questions. We'll come back to you in a moment. We are running out of time. There's a question from somebody called P. I wish people put their full names and their real names out there. What is there to hide? We lack trained watchmen and NHAI guards. Why is the government not assuring them that they will be settled there? I mean, he's referring to the Agniveers, that, okay, after you finish 24 years, you will be a guard on NHAI or something like that. I mean, how can they do that?
Again, that's a sad thinking which is there, is that a soldier, fought for the country is good only to be a guard. So that is another criticism which is there, that Agniveers what jobs would these Agniveers have?
Not everybody can become security guards.
Yeah, not everybody can become security guards. And plus, as he rightly said, the economy is going through recession. The jobs would be there when the economy is going up, it's booming. When the recession hits, jobs are hit the fastest. So again, that's a big question of what happens to these people. Do they have a safety net to fall back on? That is something that the government needs to really work and tweak upon also.
Second last question. This one is from Malkhed Sushil. With 75% of Agniveers going back into society, who knows how they will use guns, and will that lead to militarization of society in case they can't get jobs after a good number of years? Militarization of society.
Well, that's another worry which is there, the militarization of society, and this is what a lot of veterans have actually tweeted out against. I was pleasantly surprised to see even General G.D. Bakshi. He's gone on Twitter and he's spoken about the same thing, militarization of the society.
The other word I saw somewhere was military tourists. They will be military tourists, and then there will be militarization of society.
Yeah. So that is something which is again a concern. So when talking about Agni Veers getting out 75 years, it's not just about what jobs they will have; it's also the impact that will have on the society. And hence, as I said, there should have been a more, it should have been introduced in a staggered manner, rather than being introduced in just one full flow. So to really see the impact that it will have, not just on the armed forces, but also otherwise also.
Ashish Chawla, will it be good advice to the government if after 4 years of service, the released candidates are shifted to CAPFs? Won't it be a win-win situation? We talked about it. MHA is talking about it. But again, 75% cannot be absorbed, and there are issues there of layering and ranks and promotions and
plus
all of that.
CAPFs also, there are people who apply for CAPFs. They don't get into the army, then they apply for CAPF. So what happens to them?
Yeah. Last question, Snehesh. This is not related to the Agnipath scheme, but this is again from Hitesh, who also says he really likes our live shows. Thank you, Hitesh. We really appreciate it. Any update on the new CDS appointment?
Well, that's $1 million question. In case, Hitesh, you have an update, tell me. But yes, the CDS would be appointed soon. I think the process has already begun. There's a file that has been made. It is under consideration. I can tell you for the fact that it also involves both retired as well as serving officers. So I think it's a call that the government will take soon. You had Defense Minister Rajnath Singh on the day of announcing this particular scheme, Agnipath scheme. He had said that the appointment would be done soon. It's high time that appointment is done. It's been 6 months since the tragic death of India's first CDS, General Bipin Rawat. So hopefully, yes, you will have a new CDS soon.
Thank you, Snehesh, and thanks for watching this special live episode of our video, Brahmastra. Let's hope these protests don't escalate and they are tackled quickly, and the government is also able to assure these young men who are protesting that there is no point in burning trains and buses. Thank you for watching us, and please do keep tracking our YouTube channel for more videos, both live and others. Thank you.
Thank you so much.